Coming up in this video, we go bivvying in some particularly chilly temperatures, but under a beautiful sky.
Hello there friends, I've never done any extreme cold weather camping before, so I'm here to test out a bivvy bag, setting up at 11 PM, frost already on the ground, -5 degrees measured right here on this spot, and with an ultra minimal 30-litre backpack bivvy setup. Let's see how this goes.
As I rather hastily get the bivvy set up here, I just want to focus for 1 second on the unbelievably lightweight backpack. So I've got literally just my sleeping bag, camping mat and an Alpkit Elan bivvy in it, a little bit of water and a battery pack to charge my gadgets in these very cold temperatures. Of course, it's not the sort of kit you would be taking on a long multiple night hike, but it's just curious that you can get an entire sleep system in such a small area when you're bivvying. Anyway, back to the experiment at hand, and although this setup is obviously a time-lapse, I really wasn't wasting any time as I was setting this up because, as you can see here, the temperature was already well into the minus numbers.
So what is going on here? That's a very good question. Now this isn't a camp, this is a 3-hour experiment that's going to go from 11 PM now through until 2 AM. I'm not going to camp specifically because I've never done it in this sort of temperature before, so I'm very keen, especially with a bivvy bag, to see what the temperature is like, how comfortable I am, so that I know in future what it'll be like if I do go out with very cold weather forecast. I can't help but feel I won't be needing this. So now that I've stopped walking and I've pitched the bivvy, and I'm just completely still, I can feel my body getting cooler and cooler. I've got a good pair of mittens to put on. I've got a hand warmer that I'm going to put down by my feet. And this is all just to get used to and to test out how warm I can keep in a bivvy in these sort of temperatures. As you may be able to tell, this place is an absolute palace with nothing but endless space on the inside. And that's the biggest part you're looking at. This is so cool, my friends. We've got the sound of the river in the distance and owls in the very, very near vicinity. Absolutely beautiful sky above. And this is every bit the traditional crisp winter's night in the UK. So I can see an immediate problem with the bivvy in these cold temperatures. Within the first 10 minutes of being in here, I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but it definitely is damp to the touch already with condensation.
When I first got into the bivvy, I was a little bit foolish, a little bit hopeful and quite optimistic that it might not be as bad as I was expecting, and that if it was very, very cold, it would at least be somewhere within the limits of comfort that I could stand. But as you can see, by the time I left, there was a decent amount of ice starting to form over the bivvy, which should indicate what the temperature was like really. And we had a lot of this rolling, freezing fog coming in, so it would be completely clear like this one moment, and then the next minute you would have visibility drop into a few dozen feet. Almost unbelievably, within that first half an hour, being out of the cold air, I started to feel quite warm on my upper body, and I actually took my big coat off.
So it's 12 minutes past midnight. The thermometer is telling us it is -4 degrees at the moment. So I fetched the thermometer into the bivvy bag and I'll place it just towards the back of my head so that I'm not breathing on it to artificially warm it. But you might even be able to see in real time it's actually warming up on the inside now.
I thought I'd just put the world's least exciting time lapse in here.
20 minutes later, 12:30, you can see the internal temperature in the bivvy is about 3 degrees, so significantly warmer than outside, but still very cold. And as you might notice, with ice forming around that ground level.
Just keep in mind this is after only an hour and a half here.
I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's ice forming on my shoes, so that's exciting. I wanted to just come out and walk around for a few minutes without my big coat on, because inside the bivvy I'm finding that I am at a comfortable temperature without my big coat, so wanted to see that temperature difference wearing the same clothes outside, and believe me, it is really, really cold out here right now.
Something to consider here is that if this was a proper camping trip, this would have already been pitched for maybe 6 hours at this point, and would likely be completely iced over already.
Hopefully you can see we've already got ice starting to sparkle on the outside of the bivvy. So why is this a time limited test? Well, firstly, even though right now this is a beautiful quiet place and an extremely chilly place to be doing this recording and testing, it will tomorrow morning be a beautiful sunny Saturday in a very popular area, so I don't want to risk falling asleep by accident and then ending up being quite a novelty for the early morning dog walkers and people out enjoying the countryside. Secondly, I don't want to fall asleep because of course this is the whole point of this test, to see how cold it actually is in the bivvy, and I need to be awake to experience that, or more importantly, if it gets ridiculously cold, I need to be awake to be able to bail out of this. I've chosen 2 AM as my cut-off point because it means I can get back into a sensible warm bed, sleep till about 6 AM and hopefully get a few hours in, and then start my day properly because I've got an awful lot to do tomorrow. A couple of other safety thoughts here. My family know where I am and can see me on the tracking app to check that I'm still getting out and moving around from time to time, as well as of course being in direct phone communication. I am only about 10 minutes away from help of many different kinds right here as well, so that's definitely a reassurance. And I've also set a silent alarm every half an hour on my watch and a proper alarm every hour on my phone to try and make sure that I don't accidentally fall asleep and find myself in a very chilly and very serious situation. It's currently about 1:20 in the morning, and I've got to say I'm very pleased that this is coming to an end because it's getting very cold in here now, or at least I'm losing a lot of my body heat through the bivvy to the great outdoors. It's currently saying it's -6 degrees again, and I think one of the issues that's causing me a lot of temperature loss inside is the fact there's such a huge vent at the top end just behind where I'm filming with the camera now, which I can literally feel on my hands, the cold air coming in. Secondly, because the bivvy is of course lying all over me from basically from the shoulders down, this is a very thin layer between me and -6 degree temperatures, which of course means that as it's laying flat over my body, especially with such a flimsy sleeping bag as I've got at the moment, it is really not much material at all to lie flat on me on the sleeping bag and have all of that body heat start to wick away into the great outdoors. Especially with these temperatures, that's going to be a very rapid radiation from me.
As you can see, the temperature was incredibly consistent in that -4 to -6 bracket for all of the time I was out, and as the hours wore on, ice started to form on every possible surface. And I just think if I'd have been pitched up from, say, 5 in the evening and the bivvy had just been out there for all those hours, it would have been completely iced over long before this point. My shoelaces actually started to harden up and had little blobs of ice form on them, so that was definitely a warning about how cold the ground temperature actually was. And when I got back to my car, you can see just how solidly frozen even that was.
Hopefully I'm in shot here, my friends, because I really haven't got any time to waste right now. The only thing I'm going to say is I just want to get this packed up and get out of here, is that my immediate response being out of the bivvy and back in these outdoor temperatures is that if I'd have got carried away and gone up into the hills to do a video like this and an experiment like this tonight, I think I would have been in some serious trouble in the next couple of hours because it is very cold in and out of the bivvy at the moment. Anyway, let's just get going.
Looking back at this footage, I'm even more grateful that I was able to do this test somewhere relatively safe and easily accessible, with my other safety measures in place too, of course, and I wouldn't recommend anybody else go out trying to do something like this. I've learnt that I absolutely love the bivvy concept still, even in these conditions, maybe even more in these conditions with such a beautiful sky overhead. It has also proved that I need a radically better sleeping bag, because what I've got now would have simply been dangerous to have gone out camping and lying in a bivvy, say from 8 o'clock at night in these temperatures until whatever time I was hoping to wake up the following morning. I'd like to thank you all for watching and thank some of my recent channel members, super thankers, PayPal supporters, Facebook subscribers and wherever else you're supporting this channel. That's A. Sanford, T. Seymour, The Yacht Captain, Fufarito, David D, Kaz G and Sean B. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Keep it tent worthy, keep it interesting, have a fantastic day, and of course, my friends, farewell.